Do you ever see a news story and think, is this real life? Is this really happening? Well, in this video, I have 5 different news stories that caught my eye and made me question, why are we living in this reality? So I have done this segment twice before. This was initially going to be a weekly segment, then it was monthly. Now I think it's every 2 months. But regardless, these are the 2 previous videos I have done, combining a ton of stories into a single video. I will link to those below the video as well. Now, in this video, I will also link to the timestamps to each of the different stories in case you want to skip ahead. Let me start with this one. The Stop Anti-Semitism, Anti-Semite of the Year. Now, the name may fool you. Stop Anti-Semitism is not a group that is actually about stopping anti-Semitism. It is a Israel-aligned group that is simply there to defend the government of Israel. How do I know this? Look at this finalist list, which includes Miss Rachel, the children's entertainer, who has done an incredible job standing up for the lives of all children, including Palestinians that have been impacted by Israel's genocide in Gaza. Now, some of the others on the list are actual anti-Semites, but then you have Cynthia Nixon, Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian, Marsha Cross. Like, some of these I don't know. I think this is like a TikToker who's a Democrat, but again, is critical of Israel's genocide. So, like, very stupid list, clearly. Some reactions here, including a notable exception, or someone who was not included on this list. But Leah Grenberg writing, a list that combines rabid anti-Semites and people who care about Palestinian children being slaughtered. Wildly offensive to human rights advocates like Miss Rachel and Marsha Cross, and insanely counterproductive to fighting anti-Semitism. Now, there was one person not included on this list. As Yashar Ali points out, this is wild. For the past year, particularly in June and July of this year, I've witnessed people I track get radicalized in real time by Nick Fuentes. He does not exist on the list. How you have an anti-Semite of the year, which, by the way, what is this, the Game of Year Awards? Like, why are you having votes for anti-Semite of the year? Seems a little ridiculous. But to have this list and not include Nick Fuentes is absolutely insane. Let me get to the next story. And that is the race in Tennessee. So the crazy thing about this race is not the race itself, because it's fairly normal. This is an off-year race for a House seat because the Republican left their seat over the summer. What is crazy are the competing ads. So I'm going to show you the comparison of the ads, and you tell me which is the candidate to vote for. But Democrats are hoping for a major upset in this seat because of the fact that the district backed Trump and the former Republican candidate there by a 22-point margin. And this time, Matt Van Epps is running as the GOP nominee against Afton Bain. So I'm going to show you these competing ads. Worth noting, a recent survey showed that Van Epps is up by just 2 points ahead of Bain, again, in a district that was for Trump by 22 points. But these competing ads are absolutely hilarious. Let's watch this together.
Tennessee's choice, Matt Van Epps versus Afton Bain. Van Epps wants 3 things: cuts to health care benefits, more tariffs driving up costs, tax breaks for billionaires. Afton Bain wants one thing: to lower your costs. She fought to end the grocery tax. In Congress, she'll stand up to both parties to make life more affordable. Want more of the same? That's Matt Van Epps. Want someone who'll fight for you for a change? That's Afton Bain. HMP is responsible for the content of this ad.
All right, fairly normal Democratic candidate ad. Here is the Republican.
Afghanistan, the radical shot at us. So these radical attacks now, piece of cake.
A very radical person.
On December 2nd, you can stop this radical disaster. The Democrats' radical agenda, opposing tax cuts, pushing higher taxes and higher prices, and new taxes that would crush working families. Tennessee can't afford their radical agenda.
I'm Matt Van Epps, and I approve this message because I'll fight for America. Always have, always will.
Notice immediately, no specifics about what he actually advocates for. Just smears about a radical agenda and, oh, she wants higher taxes. But on who? Doesn't answer that question, because that tells you a lot about who these each of these candidates back. But here's a couple more ads.
Meet liberal Afton Bain.
I'm a very radical person.
Bain not only joined and praised defund the police liberals, Afton Bain bragged about harassing law enforcement.
We're bullying the ICE vehicles and state troopers.
Worse, Afton Bain supports permanent sex changes for minors.
I ran on protecting trans children.
If we don't vote, they win.
I'm a very radical person.
Vote December 2nd to stop radical liberal Afton Bain. Conservatives for American Excellence is responsible for the content of this ad.
Anti-trans hysteria, very normalized now within Republican ads, has not worked in the past, did not work in several recent races during the recent elections. Also was not a factor last year when Trump won, despite the claims from some Republicans. Trump clearly won if you look at all exit polling based on the fact that the economy was not doing well and people themselves weren't doing well, so they wanted to vote for someone different. And that's consistently what we see when people are struggling economically. They just vote for the other person without really understanding or caring about what the other person's actually advocating for.
Last year, with prices soaring, politician Afton Bain voted against the largest tax cut in state history. Liberal Afton Bain voted for higher taxes on top of higher prices.
I'm a very radical person.
That's not just radical, it's stupid. And this year, Afton Bain backed more tax hikes that would cost Tennessee families thousands more.
I'm a very radical person.
We can't afford radical liberal Afton Bain. So vote by Tuesday, December 2nd. MAGA Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertising.
MAGA Inc., which is backed by billionaires, it's a PAC. We'll get to the money separation here in a second.
Afton Bain, we all know the system is rigged in Washington. Here's how it works. Politicians make it easy for their rich donors. Tax cuts for billionaires and burying the Epstein files. While hardworking Tennesseans get a rough ride by cutting health care for Tennessee families, doubling health insurance premiums, and tariffs that hurt our economy. I'm Afton Bain, and I approve this message. Vote December 2nd to shake up Washington.
And I believe the end of this is a plug for a Tennessee Titans game. Okay. So let's get to the differences here. You had one candidate who was more specific about what she's actually supporting and what the other candidate has actually supported. And then you have the other set of ads, which keeps quoting her saying, I'm a very radical person, and then isn't able to, I would argue, effectively scare anybody about whatever radical agenda she's arguing for, because it's not radical. What is radical, what is insane, is the fact that the Republican candidate, Matt Van Epps, moved his event to the gated mansion estate of a right-wing billionaire. This gives you an idea of who is supporting what. If you currently think the way things are going is great, how billionaires are sucking up everything, you think that's fantastic, the choice is obvious. I mean, you can look at who financially supports each candidate. So PACs pour millions into a Tennessee race. You can actually, they actually have the breakdown here. Money by money, like who is giving what to who. So as they write, out-of-state political action committees backed by some of the richest people in the country, including MAGA Inc., PAC funded by Elon Musk, have poured more than $7 million into the special election for Tennessee's open 7th congressional district, largely to back Republican candidate Mike Van Epps. Van Epps has benefited from millions in spending by PACs funded by some of America's billionaires like TikTok investor Jeff Yass and hedge fund manager Ken Griffin, with little or no public information available on who controls their spending. And credit here as well to Afton Bain. I commented during the first ad how, her ad is a typical Democratic ad, but she's actually not a typical Democratic candidate. This is somebody that actually appears to really care about the issue of affordability and is going to be doing a rally with AOC. So she was asked about this on CNN. And the way that CNN tries to frame this or, I don't know, scare people with this is hilarious, but I think she has a pretty good response to these questions.
Tomorrow, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is holding a tele-rally for you. Are you in line with her ideologically?
Like I said, I think that there is a strain of the Democratic Party that cares about holding corporations accountable and lowering costs for working families. And my politics are one in alignment of that. As a state legislator, I've worked to eliminate Tennessee's regressive grocery tax. As an organizer, I work to make healthcare more affordable in the state of Tennessee. And so I think those are the Democratic leaders and candidates that I really resonate with, are those that are trying to lower costs for working families.
Yeah, because Trump has been calling you, quote, the AOC of Tennessee. So, I mean, aren't you just feeding into that narrative by appearing with her?
Like I said, we're really grateful for the support across the political spectrum. And if you and for your listeners, the teletown hall also features former Vice President Al Gore, who is a Tennessee legend. So I look at it as iconic that you have Democrats from all political stripes joining in on this moment and saying, we are standing up to what is happening in Washington, and we want to be part of the solution rather than the problem.
Yeah. But Trump is calling you the AOC of Tennessee. Aren't you just feeding to that narrative? This is so stupid. AOC, first of all, is one of the more popular politicians in the U.S. In fact, a recent poll showed her as one of only 3 who had a net positive popularity rating, according to Atlas Intel. So it's not as if, AOC is scary. That said, Tennessee, you may think, oh, people may not like AOC. To the degree that anyone doesn't like her, who is your average voter, it's because of propaganda. AOC fights against corporations, fights for the working class. That is why I thought it was smart of Bain there to redirect the conversation back to what she's advocating for: affordability and fighting against corporate greed, as a way to center the conversation around this is what I actually care about. Whatever you think of AOC doesn't matter, because this is the agenda that I care about, and it's also the agenda that she cares about. But again, people may be confused about what AOC actually fights for. So to focus on that agenda and consistently fight for that has already showed to be successful in recent elections. Add to that how unpopular Donald Trump and Republicans are right now. There may be a potential here, though slim, there may still be a potential for a Democrat to win that seat in Tennessee, despite Trump winning it by a big margin last time. Anyways, on to the next story. A quick one here, but one that I wanted to inform you of in case you weren't aware. Meta buried causal evidence of social media harm, according to U.S. filings. This was their own study that they did, and purposely did not release the results after they saw what the results were. So in a 2020 research paper codenamed Project Mercury, Meta scientists worked with survey firm Nielsen to gauge the effect of deactivating Facebook and Instagram, according to meta documents obtained via discovery. To the company's disappointment, quote, people who stopped using Facebook for a week reported lower feelings of depression, anxiety, loneliness, and social comparison. I could have told you that without doing a study, but the study indeed confirmed it. Rather than publishing those findings or pursuing additional research, Meta called off further work and internally declared the negative study findings were tainted by the existing media narrative around the company, which of course is bullshit. Why do the study if the only purpose of it, I guess here, was to hopefully, in your mind, support what you wanted the outcome to be? And if that wasn't the outcome, then your goal is to do nothing about it. So they even privately assured a member of the staff, Nick Clegg, Meta's then head of public policy, that the conclusions of the research were valid. So even though they were claiming, it's because of the media narrative, no, they knew the findings were legitimate. The Nielsen study does show causal impact on social comparison. Another staffer worried that keeping quiet about negative findings would be akin to the tobacco industry doing research and knowing cigs were bad and then keeping that info to themselves, which is essentially what Facebook did. So the only reason I still have a Facebook account at all is to post videos to my feed there from the Rational National. I have a Rational National account that there are people that I guess still exist on Facebook and don't use YouTube. So my hope is just to get videos out and try and cut through some of the majority of trash that exists on Facebook. But if you don't find that social media is benefiting you in any way, especially when it comes to something like Facebook, stop using it. You may find that you will report lower feelings of depression, anxiety, and loneliness. All right, on to the next story. And I noticed I'm at 15 minutes right now, so I'm going to try to make these next stories quick, but they are important. A 19-year-old college student was about to board a flight to surprise her family for Thanksgiving when she was detained at Boston Logan Airport and deported to Honduras 2 days later. The student, Annie Lucia Lopez Beoza, was brought by her parents from Honduras to the U.S. when she was just 7 years old. Now, this is one of thousands of stories like this, but it's important not to lose sight of how inhumane the Trump administration has been in their approach to literally every issue, but especially when it applies to immigration. She was excited to see her family. She was told something's wrong with her ticket. She was told to go get it checked out. That's when she was swarmed by agents ready to deport her. I can't even imagine what it would feel like being in a situation like that. So, the Department of Homeland Security claims that a immigration judge had ordered her to be deported in 2015 when she was a child. Her lawyer says there's no evidence of that, even if there was. Of course, as he writes, she should have been notified of it because she is completely unaware that this even existed. And on Saturday, after she spent a night detained in Texas, she was put on a bus with shackles on her wrists, waist, and ankles before being put on a flight to Honduras, as if she's some violent criminal. You know, I'm out of things to say when it comes to stories like this, because these are the ones that make me pause. Like when it comes up on my phone or I'm on the computer reading, I have to just sit and just stop for a second because of how disgusting all of this is. And again, it's important not to lose sight of how gross the Trump administration has been. And one last example of that with this last story: Trump frees fraudster just days into 7-year prison sentence. This is the Trump voter, a white-collar criminal. If anybody out there should actually vote for Trump, and again, if they just care about their own personal well-being, it's people who are currently serving for a white-collar crime, because that is who Trump loves. So David Gentile had been found guilty for his role in what prosecutors described as a $1.6 billion scheme that defrauded thousands of investors, those investors being largely just normal, hardworking people. So the ruling came down in August 2024. He was guilty of a Ponzi-like scheme through his company GPB Capital. Now, their company defrauded 10,000 investors by misrepresenting the performance of the funds and the source of the money. More than 1,000 people submitted statements attesting to their losses. These were hardworking, everyday people, including small business owners, farmers, veterans, teachers, and nurses. Quote, "I lost my whole life savings," one wrote, adding, "I am living from check to check." And meanwhile, they used the money to subsidize private planes and luxury travel for the three executives. Payments went to their personal bank accounts and to family members. Gentile even purchased a Ferrari with the money. So this fraud, telling people, oh yeah, invest into this, you're going to make money back, you'll do great. Meanwhile, that money is going directly to him, where he buys a Ferrari and other luxury items. And Trump saw that and thought, you know what? This is my guy. He must be free. And he now is. This goes right in line with who Trump has been pardoning, and this is a piece from New York Times from back in May. Trump has offered pardons or clemency to more than 24 people. Most are political allies. Some are former office holders accused of abusing power for personal gain, and almost all were convicted of white-collar crimes like fraud, tax evasion, and campaign finance violations. There is so much corruption with this Trump administration that it is impossible to keep track of. Can you imagine if Joe Biden had pardoned a bunch of his buddies who were all committing crimes? Like, that story alone would be and should be top story news for years. Yet this is just a footnote in what Trump has done so far, because there is so much of it, it is impossible to keep track of all of it. Anyways, I wish I could end on a happy note. It's hard to end on a happy note, especially in a segment that is supposed to be about how insane our world is. But just so you know, there are others like you watching who are also annoyed and horrified by what we are seeing, what we are experiencing. And it's important that we harness that energy where we can, when we can. Do not lose sight of the fact that this, at some point, this administration will no longer exist. There will be somebody else. And let's hope we can set ourselves up for a better future for us all. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe and check out some of the other videos I have on this channel.